making vegetable beef soup, homemade vegetable beef soup. These are all the ingredients we're going to need to make us a big old pot of soup. We have spinach, macaroni, whole can of tomatoes, 2 cans of stewed tomatoes. I like a lot of tomatoes in mine. Can of peas, can of corn, got a can of green beans, and a big tall can of tomato juice. I have some fresh potatoes, some fresh celery, cabbage. I've got some fresh garlic, and I've got some hamburger meat, onions, carrots, and then we've got some spices right here. Black pepper, onion powder, and salt. Now I've got hamburger meat. You don't have to use hamburger meat if you don't want to. You can use corned beef. My mom loves to use corned beef in hers. And I've got me a frozen bread dough. I've got it in the pan and rising because I like to have fresh bread with mine. Alright, stay tuned. We'll come back and we're going to start our soup. Let's get started. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take about 8 or 9 small to medium potatoes. We're going to wash them and then we're going to peel them. One easy trick to catch all your potato peelings is put your little bag there and there's no cleanup, or very little. So we're just going to peel them till we get them all peeled, and then we're going to chop them. Alright, I've got my potatoes peeled and I went and washed them. Now we're going to start to chop them. I'm going to put them in the pot. Now after I've got my potatoes chopped, missed one. I've scraped 5 carrots. Now you can, if you don't have any fresh carrots or you don't want to fool with chopping them, you can get frozen sliced carrots and that'll work just as good. So I'm going to chop these kind of thin because I don't want them to take forever to get done. I want everything to get done at the same time. Next, we're going to chop a medium onion. You can use a large one. I'm going to add some celery. I'm going to chop that up. The next thing I'm going to chop up and put into my soup is some cabbage. I'm going to chop up about 1/3 of it. Now if you don't have time to do all this chopping, you can cut down your list by just getting some frozen things. I've seen frozen onions, I've seen onions and celery mix. You could get frozen carrots, putting you mostly to just have to chop your celery or your cabbage and your potatoes. Make it a lot quicker. I like the fresh. Now the next thing we're going to put in there is 1 to 2 handfuls of spinach. Now I went ahead and took off most of the stems in this, and I'm going to chop this pretty fine. If your family is not a big fan of greens, you can hide them in your soup. Just cut them up small, add them at the last little bit, and they're eating greens and they don't even know it. Now I'm going to set this aside because I'm not going to start out with this in my pot. I'm going to put it in a bowl and add it the very last thing. Now the last thing, I'm going to go ahead and use my garlic press on 3 cloves of garlic. How cute is this little bowl? I love this little bowl. But I've got my garlic in here. I'm going to take it out. I'm going to press the garlic, scrape it off onto the bottom into the bowl, and that way it'll be ready when I want to use it. Alright, open it up, put it inside, then I squeeze, then I take my knife and I scrape it off the bottom. Anything left in there, I give it another press, and then I just scrape that out. Love fresh garlic, but it can sure make your hands smell really bad for days. That's why I love this little gadget. Another little press, get it all out of there. And I'm going to put this in my hamburger meat when it's cooking. I haven't even started cooking yet, and my kitchen already smells fresh and delicious. I've got my big stock pot, and I'm going to add all my stuff into that. Now I'm going to take it over there, and I'm going to add water up to about 2 to 3 inches above all of my veggies. Alright, I've got my water 2 to 3 inches above my vegetables, and I've got it on the stove now, and I'm going to turn it up to about medium high. And I'm going to come back and check it to make sure my vegetables are done. Now while my vegetables are cooking, I'm going to go ahead and in a skillet, I'm going to add about 1 pound to 1.5 pounds of ground beef. And I'm going to brown this, and then at the right time we'll put it in our soup. Now I'm using a lean ground beef, so I'm going to cook this on medium. And once it's brown, I'm going to add in some of my spices. So I'm going to chop this up really good. Let it fry up. Now remember, if you're using corned beef instead of hamburger, just cut that up into chunks, warm it up on the stove, and set it aside until it's time to put it into the vegetables. Alright, my hamburger is pretty brown. I'm going to add in 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, and 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Now at the end, when you're finished and you're getting ready to serve it, you're going to want to taste it, or let whoever you're feeding this to taste it and see if they want to add more. People have different thresholds for salt, and some people can't have much of it at all. So I like to add just a little and then let someone salt it as they're eating it. Right before I put in my salt, I had drained some of the fat off of this before I put it in. And now I'm going to put in my 3 cloves of garlic. Ooh, that smells good. Now we're going to let this brown a little bit more. And we're going to set it aside, and we're going to check our vegetable soup mixture. Let's check back in on our soup and see if our potatoes and our carrots are almost done. My potatoes are almost done and my carrots are almost done. So I'm going to bring this up to a boil. And I am going to add in 1.5 cups of macaroni. My soup's beginning to boil. I'm going to add in my macaroni and I'm going to stir that around, and I'm going to let that boil for about 5 more minutes until the macaroni is good and done. Then I'm going to come back to check it. Alright, I'm ready to add in my ground beef. Add all that in there. Okay, next I'm going to add in my drained can of corn. Next, my drained can of peas. And my drained can of green beans. I'm adding in my stewed tomatoes. Got 2 cans. You can use 1 if you don't want to use 2. Got my stewed tomatoes. And I've got a big can of whole tomatoes I want to add in there as well. Those will break down as it boils a little bit. Now I'm not going to take out any of that water, you see, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add in my tomato juice. We want to leave that water in there because we want all that delicious blended vegetable juices. Right, I'm going to bring this back up to a boil. And I'm going to let it cook for another probably 15 minutes. And we'll come back and add in our spinach. I'm giving this a really good stir. Really gentle. Don't want to break down our potatoes. Our tomatoes will break down on their own just a little. And we're just about ready to add in our spinach. Look at all these beautiful vegetables in there. This is going to be delicious. It smells amazing. Alright, I'm going to add in my spinach. I'm going to give that a little stir. We're going to come back and we're going to serve this up. Here is our beautiful bowl of homemade vegetable beef soup. It is beautiful. We've got some beautiful colors, yellows and red, oranges and green. We've got the potatoes and the macaroni. This is an awesome soup. The flavors blend so well in this to make an appetizing meal. I wish you could smell this kitchen right now because it smells amazing. I'm going to serve this up with some nice, fresh, warm homemade bread straight out of the oven. This is going to be a great meal. Now this recipe makes a lot of soup, so you can freeze some of it and you can eat on this for days. It is that good. Nothing tastes as good on a cold winter day than a nice warm bowl of soup. Alright, if you enjoyed this recipe, leave me a comment below. Check out the other recipes on my channel for more delicious comfort foods. And if you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And stay tuned. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.